What's up, guys? I am Tidemaster Tim, and today I have a very special announcement for you guys. I have been invited to be a coach in a Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu and Eevee Draft League. If you don't know what a draft league is, it's similar to fantasy football. You have a couple people who are coaches, and they take turns drafting Pokemon that are from this game, and you battle it out through a season, and then there's a playoffs and a championship. And basically that's all it is. It's just a draft league, but for Pokemon. And so that's what I'm a part of. This draft league is going to be known as the ABL. It's the first season of this draft league, the inaugural season, and the ABL stands for Ametuer Battle League. And everybody that's in here is fairly amateur. They're not professionals, they're not amazing necessarily at competitive. We're all just kind of in the early stages of figuring out competitive and trying to get into it, and that's kind of what this battle league is for. It's also for smaller content creators, and there's going to be a lot of smaller content creators that are part of this battle league. So make sure you check them all out. I'll try to link all their stuff in the description down below. As for me, I am, like I said, a coach in this league. And my team will be known as the Biloxi Bewares. So look out for us. Hopefully we do good in this season. And, let's do good. Wish me luck, wish me luck. You know what I'm saying? Hopefully we get to the playoffs and maybe even the championship. All right, so now that I've said that, and gotten that out of the way, the next thing is I've already drafted my Pokemon. So let's dive into this draft and see what Pokemon I drafted for my team, the Biloxi Bewares. Let's get it going. Alright, so let's get into the draft. First, there were a few rules leading into the draft. This season of the ABL is going to be double battles, so keep that in mind. Also, it's going to be best of threes because there's only a 20-minute timer in Pokemon Let's Go's battles online. So there's that. There were also banned Pokemon that you couldn't choose from for the league. The banned Pokemon were Mewtwo, for obvious reasons, very powerful, Mew, Meltan, Melmetal, and the starter Pikachu and starter Eevee. Those are all very powerful Pokemon. Another thing that was also banned was Mega Evolutions in general. So now we know which Pokemon I couldn't choose from. Let's see which Pokemon I did end up choosing. Now, I went into this draft knowing I wanted two Pokemon on my team for sure. Like, these would be my top two picks. Definitely, if I could pick these two Pokemon, they would 100% be on my team. And the crazy thing is, I got them both. As my first and second pick, I got the Pokemon that I really wanted on my team. So let's start off with our first pick. Our first pick, I was the 5th pick of the first round of the draft, and I was worried because the Pokemon that I wanted is actually a pretty good Pokemon for this format, I believe, for Generation 1. It's one of the few Dark-type Pokemon that's available, and in my opinion, it's the strongest one besides Mega Gyarados, which is banned, and that is a Alolan Muck. That's right, I got Alolan Muck as my first pick. I really wanted this guy because he's got really strong attack, he's got really good special defense and HP, his physical defense is pretty good, he's actually got a pretty good range of moves that he can learn as well. He can learn elemental punches, he's got poison and dark typing, which means he's immune to psychic, period. So yeah, now he does have a ground weakness, which ground type attacks are very popular in Gen 1, so we'll see how that goes, but like I said, our first pick was Alolan Muck. Alright, so as the second round was coming around, the second round of the drafts, I was the 4th pick in the second round. Altogether, there were 8 coaches, so between my last pick and my current pick, or my next pick, there was about 6 picks between. So, I was worried that my second pick, which is a very powerful Pokemon, would be picked off before it made it to the second round, or made it to my pick. But surprisingly, it wasn't. And I was able to pick up Zapdos as my number 2 Pokemon. It's one of the ones I went into the draft really wanting, really hoping I would get, and I did. I got it. It's awesome. The only other Pokemon, or another Pokemon that was contending for this spot was Aerodactyl, and that was picked up as the first pick of the second round. But that doesn't really matter because I did want Zapdos just a little bit more. It was the one I was really, really more leaning towards. In my opinion, it's the strongest out of the legendaries that are left to choose from because you could choose from the legendary birds. And in my opinion, Zapdos is the best one. It's got great stats all around. Speed, special attack, even its physical attack, HP, its defenses aren't bad. It's a great Pokemon. And, you know, it has good moves. It's got flying, electric type moves. It's got some utility that I'm not going to delve too deeply into, but, you know, it can pivot. You know, it's actually a really great Pokemon to have. It's tanky and it deals damage. So it's a great Pokemon, and I'm glad I picked it up for the Biloxi Bewares. So now we're getting on to the third round, and a lot of powerful Pokemon were being picked up. Both the Nidos were picked up. Dragonite had already been picked up. Alakazam, like I said, Aerodactyl. You know, a lot of the heavy hitters. And I was looking around, and there was one Pokemon I'd kind of had my eye on, and it was still on the board, and that was Gengar. And I thought about it, and I decided I would take it. Now, its defenses aren't great. It can get wiped out pretty easily, but it's very fast, and it has a very high special attack. There's a lot of situations it can definitely be used in to where it can do great. Also, it has a pretty good move pool. It learns a lot of things people might not expect that can cover a lot of different typings. And with its speed and those type advantages, I think it'll actually do really well. As long as it can attack first. You know, it's definitely a glass cannon. It'll get some big damage off, but then it'll also just die. But I did want this cannon on my team, so I picked up Gengar as the third pick for the Biloxi Bewares. So moving on to the fourth round, I was the last pick in the fourth round, very last pick. So I had a good 10 picks in between my last pick and my next pick, basically. And some strong Pokemon were getting picked up. And, you know, there was something I had noticed. A lot of very fast Pokemon had been picked up. And, you know, the Pokemon that I decided to go with in the fourth round is definitely not the strongest Pokemon by any means, but I needed some utility on my team. And I figured I would go with the fastest Pokemon that you could get that was still available in the draft. And the fastest Pokemon in this meta. And that was Electrode. I decided to go with Electrode because I believe, I'll have to recheck these calculations and see, but I believe even with a modest stat, Electrode can outspeed Jolly Alakazam, Timid Alakazam or Jolly Aerodactyl. So that was like the main reason I picked it, because it can definitely outspeed those guys if the situation arises. Now, of course, Electrode isn't that strong, so it's not going to one-hit KO an Aerodactyl. I haven't tested on Alakazam, but it might not. But it has a lot of utility options that I can use to make it to where those Pokemon can be KO'd. So, you know, and it also has utility. It can set up screens and different things like that to really help my team out. And since it's faster than everyone, you know, you're not going to be able to stop me from doing that, basically. So that's the key, and that's why I chose Electrode. I wanted some very fast utility to add to my team. And that's what I got. So I was the 7th pick in the 5th round, so I had to wait another 6 or so picks from my last pick to my next pick to be able to pick. And during that time, I was sitting there and I was thinking, you know, I'm really weak to ground. I do have one immunity to ground, obviously. I have Zapdos. But ground Earthquake, which is such a common move, or just ground moves in general, are common in Generation 1. They do so much damage. Now, you know, since this is doubles, I don't know if Earthquake will be as prevalent, but there's still ground-type moves, and there's a lot of ground-type Pokemon that are very popular, and I figured I needed a resistant to that. Not only that, but the Pokemon that I picked is somewhat defensive. You know, it doesn't have the best defenses, but it can definitely take a hit, and it has some utility that I wanted on my team, and that is Parasect. For our 5th pick, we went with Parasect. It's ground and bug type, which means it 4 times resists ground. It's grass and bug type. So it 4 times resists ground attacks. Not only that, it's one of the only Pokemon in this format, or this meta. It might be the only one that learns Spore, which is a 100% accuracy sleep move. So, you know, you can put your opponent to sleep guaranteed as long as you can survive long enough to use the move. So, yeah. And, you know, it's got some other utility too, but mostly you're going to use it to put something to sleep, guaranteed. And so that's why I picked up Parasect for the ground resistance. Also, I didn't have a grass type, and most of the good grass types were already taken. And I wanted that Spore on my team. So we got Parasect. In the 5th round, I was the 3rd pick. And so after just being the 7th pick in the 5th round, I would only have to wait for 3 picks to go by before I got to pick mine. And so I decided on a Pokemon that I really wanted. I needed a water type for my team, and I was, I noticed that Gyarados was still on the board, and I was really excited. I was like, gonna pick Gyarados. Well, immediately after my pick in the 5th round, Nido 17, King Nido of the Orlando Kings, decided to go ahead and pick up Gyarados. So there went that plan, and my pick came around, and I was looking at the water types that were left, and there were some good ones still left. I mean, there were some good ones still left, but the one that I wanted at that point was Gyarados, because that would have been another ground immunity, and it would have been water type. It had a lot of potential that I was wanting to look at. But then, there was something I thought about, and that is setup, sweeping, and so I ended up picking Cloyster. Cloyster would just be a really good pick, just because it has high defenses, and with a Shell Smash, you can get that high speed, outspeed the meta, and be able to just wallop, kaboom some people, It'll have huge damage and pretty good speed, so yeah. I decided to go with Cloyster. I was the first pick of the 7th round, and I decided to go with Dugtrio. The reason I selected Dugtrio is because, in my opinion, he was the best ground type left, and I still didn't have a Rock Setter on my team. Stealth Rocks is very strong in Let's Go Pikachu because you can't get rid of it. And, a lot of the good Rock Setters, in my opinion, were gone, so I decided to choose Dugtrio because it's a fast Rock Setter. I can speedily throw out them rocks, hit somebody with a Stab Earthquake, run away, whatever you want to say. So that's it. I chose Dugtrio. So since I was the first round pick in the 7th round, I was the first pick, I ended up being the 7th pick of the 8th round. So there was a lot of time in between, and during that time I was DMing one of the other coaches, Dave, the Geeky Parents of the Atlanta Starmies, and we were talking about, the fact that there's been at least one type that hasn't been picked up at all in this league. And I had a few, ideas about who I wanted, and he had some ideas about who he wanted, but we were waiting, and he would get to pick before me, so, it didn't really matter if we discussed it because it felt like the ones we were looking at to get weren't the same ones. Well, of course, at the end of the 7th round, the coach of the San Juan Froakies decided to go ahead and pick up Machamp, which was a fighting type. And this caused a snowball effect for the fighting types to kind of start getting picked up. And let's just say in the end, Dave didn't even get a fighting type. But I did get one in the 8th round with my 7th pick. I got Hitmonlee, which I was really excited about because the ones I was looking at, even though Machamp is extremely strong and Hitmonchan is great, Hitmonlee and Primeape were actually the ones I was most interested in, just for my own playstyle. And I ended up picking Hitmonlee over Primeape, even though Primeape was still left, just because I like Hitmonlee better. I mean, plain and simple. Fighting types are good. Hitmonlee's got an extremely high attack. It's got better speed than Hitmonchan, and they both have good special defense. So if anything other than like flying or psychic type specially defensive hits them, they'll actually take it okay. So yeah, I decided to go with Hitmonlee for the 8th pick in the ABL draft, or the 8th round, 7th pick, whatever you want to say. You know what I'm saying? So for the 3rd pick of the 9th round of the ABL draft, the Biloxi Bewares drafted Golduck. Golduck is just pretty solid. Yeah, I already had a water type in Cloyster, but Golduck is pure water, which has its own advantages, and it's actually got a pretty good stat spread. I mean, it's got good special attack, pretty good speed. Its defenses are all right; they're not bad. It's got a good average stats across the board, and some of them are pretty good. So I picked up Golduck. It has good utility. It's got a lot of options to play around with, so that's what I went with for the 9th pick. Once you get down to these picks, it's hard to find something that's good, and Golduck is actually good, so I went with it. So it was the last round, and I was looking through the Pokemon that were still left available, and there was actually still a fire type left, even though there's not a ton of fire types in Let's Go. And so that's what I decided to go with. I didn't have a fire type on my team, and I thought it would be a good thing to just fill in a few more gaps. Yes, it's another ground weakness. I have a ton of those on my team. I do understand that. and another rock weakness. But, you know, I wanted to have that addition. There's, you know, some teams that won't do well against a fire type, so I decided to bring it, and that is Rapidash. I decided to pick Rapidash. I mean, it was still there. It's a good Pokemon. It's got very good stats across the board, you know. It's not the best fire type in the game, but it's you know, it's really good. So yeah, I decided to go with Rapidash to really round out my team. So that was the final pick for the Biloxi Bewares. Alright guys, so this is the end of my announcement video and my draft analysis. I didn't go too in-depth with the draft analysis because I didn't want this video to be too long. It's the first inaugural season and we're just kind of testing the waters here, seeing how this thing's all gonna work. We're all really excited to be a part of it. So hopefully everyone sticks around to support this league and check out everyone's videos. You know, don't just watch mine or just watch someone else's. Go and see it from both perspectives if both people post videos. Make sure you just check it all out. You know, you know, show your support. I think this is going to be awesome. I think everybody's going to have a good time. I'll go ahead and link everyone's social medias that they have or that I know of down in the description below. Also, if anyone else already has a draft league video, those will also be linked in the description down below. And if you're one of the coaches in this league and you are making a draft analysis video or a video like this, an announcement video for your ABL team, shoot me a DM on Twitter or whatever, and I will then include your link later on. You know, once you get it posted, I'll include your link in the description. So guys, I'm really excited for this league. Hopefully we make it to the playoffs. Hopefully we go to the championship and we win. You know, there's definitely some scary teams out there. There's some people that drafted some very powerful Pokemon. Yeah, you know, I'm not gonna list them all out, but there's some really scary teams out there. You know, my team is definitely not the best drafted team. I drafted it based on my playstyle and how I like to do things and how I want to try things, but I definitely didn't draft the strongest Pokemon. That's for sure. There's definitely a few teams that are drafted better than mine. Hopefully I can outplay them and still win, but you know, that's how the chips fall. Let's see how it goes. Anyways guys, this has been Tidemaster Tim, and this is the start of the ABL, Amateur Battle League. Let's get it.